So, I want to talk about this clip that went viral from T.S. Madison's podcast.
If you're dark skinned,
Mhm.
you gotta chill with the transphobia
Yeah.
because you're first in line.
Mhm.
Big women.
Mhm.
If you're with the transphobia and you're a bigger woman,
You're also gonna be subject
you
to
gotta
it.
stop. You
Yeah.
gotta chill.
It's gonna
'cause
hurt all of us.
It's gonna swing on your ass too.
And I'm a big bitch too. That's why I was like, I have been called a
You've
man many times.
experienced it.
Yes, many times. Before this too. I've been called, I've been accused. It's all of that. That's why I said all of our oppression is tied together. It's all tied together. So it's very upsetting to me when women of color are TERFs too.
Now, what I do agree on is that there are intersections between all of the isms and phobias, and our experiences do overlap. Dark skin is often associated with masculinity, and light skin is associated with femininity, and therefore, dark skinned women are often masculinized. I don't think anyone is arguing that. The problem that I'm having is that instead of just talking about the intersections that exist, trans women are intentionally conflating our experiences and making it seem like they're exactly the same to make trans women feel better about being clocked as males. But the average dark skinned Black woman is not being mistaken as male or being targeted and unalived by transphobes. And the exceptions that people are throwing out do not make the rule. Most dark skinned women experience a masculinization by being expected to be the labor in the Black community and be the face of defiance against racism, white supremacy. People masculinize us the most by trying to put us on the front lines to fight against grown men and entire systems, whether that be physically or metaphorically. Or we're called masculine when we get angry. Those are examples of how dark-skinned women typically get masculinized. Trans women, on the other hand, are being masculinized mostly because they were born male and have masculine physical features, and that is something completely different. Now, if a dark-skinned woman actually has features that are typically seen on men, like broad shoulders or an above average amount of muscles for a woman, or a stronger jawline, or they're significantly above the average height for a woman, then yes, people may mistake them for men. But being that the average dark-skinned woman does not have those things, that is not something most of us are experiencing, including myself. And we know that's not the typical experience for most dark-skinned women because they keep bringing up the same two dark-skinned women to fit this narrative: Serena Williams and Michelle Obama. And we know Serena Williams is more muscular than the average Black woman. Michelle is taller than the average Black woman. So by default, that makes those two particular Black women rare. And the other Black women they keep mentioning aren't even dark-skinned, which are Sierra and Megan Thee Stallion. The woman on this podcast also isn't dark-skinned. She appears to be mixed race, and she says she gets misgendered because of her height. So that tells us that women of all complexions, women of all races, are getting misgendered mainly because of their size and other physical attributes that most people deem as masculine. So this clearly is not an issue that is exclusive to dark-skinned women. So the fact that they are intentionally exaggerating the number of dark-skinned women who are masculinized and getting mistaken for men, and they're adding in women who aren't even dark-skinned, they're actually inflicting the very same colorism and masculinization of dark-skinned women that they're talking about. And it's not just trans women doing it, as we can see, it's other biological women doing this because of their own internalized colorism or conditioning that most of us receive in the community that convinces us to be a social justice warrior for everyone, even if it means undermining ourselves, and we don't even realize when we're doing it.
T.S. Madison said that as dark-skinned Black women, we should be careful with transphobia because we are first in line when it comes to transphobia. And a lot of Black women are upset, so let's talk about it. I understand why when you initially hear that statement, you could be offended because it sounds like you're being compared to a man, but that is not what she was saying at all.
Now, I definitely think that we can hold space and empathize with masculine dark-skinned women who do experience being misgendered. And I'm talking about the women who don't want to be seen as masculine or androgynous, because some dark-skinned women do actually want to be seen that way. But for those who don't, we can definitely empathize with them. But it is colorist to exaggerate the number of dark-skinned women that this is happening to, specifically to make trans women feel better about being clocked as male. That is the very same colorism, misogyny, and misogynoir that y'all are talking about. And unfortunately, Black women have opened the door for this kind of disrespect and manipulation coming from trans women because we have been far too inclusive and accommodating to them. And because we're starting to pull back and center ourselves, and they also see us talking about resting and letting other groups fight for a change, they're now using colorism and all these other trigger words to get us to center them again. And because their rights are being stripped away by the current administration, I feel like some of them are starting to become resentful about us resting and not being as vocal on their behalf as we have been in the past. And it's not just them who are mad about us finally resting and sitting down. The Latinos are mad too because they're all over the internet talking about Black people, if you don't fight for us, you're next. Next to experience what? Being kicked out of a country that we're actual citizens of? Experiencing racism that we've been experiencing this entire time? They're making it seem like we have to fight for them to succeed when that is not the case. We've been fighting on our own. We've been alone this entire time. And the same goes for biological dark-skinned women who fight against colorism. And here come the trans women talking about, oh, dark-skinned women, you need to stop because you're next. Next for what? To experience the colorism that we've been experiencing? And where was T.S. Madison talking about colorism when I came on the scene 10 years ago? When I started my platform for dark-skinned women, I don't recall T.S. Madison, I don't recall trans women as a collective doing anything remotely close for dark-skinned women. I don't recall gay men or straight Black men doing it, nor have any of them had the impact that I have had on dark-skinned women in the last 10 years. My platform alone proves that dark-skinned women and Black women in general have been fighting alone. For the most part, it proves that we are all we got. So remind me of why we need y'all again. Remind me of how fighting for y'all has helped us. I'll wait. And something else I find very interesting about trans women is that they are all over the internet talking about how they look better than biological Black women, how they're more feminine. And we even have light-skinned trans women on record being colorist towards dark-skinned women.
They all look like this. They be mad. They be pressed.
That's what they look like.
They be dark. They be basic.
They look dusty.
They don't be prettier. They be sad. They be bothered. You fat, nasty, unattractive, Black, burnt, no neck, titty having, no hips wearing ass bitch. You still ugly. I don't give a fuck how much of the weight you lose, shaky. Bitch, you still motherfucking Black, and you still motherfucking ugly, and you still motherfucking unattractive, and you still a motherfucking trick. Both y'all ugly, both y'all Black as fuck, both y'all unattractive, and both y'all tricks.
And they calling me a colorist for calling Ebony Mutt bitch ass a Black asshole, she is a burnt Black ass bitch. Period.
And to this day, I have not seen T.S. Madison or any prominent trans woman check this trans woman Cherry the Boom on their colorism. And I don't see many LGBT activists in general even mentioning colorism, unless, of course, it's to manipulate biological dark-skinned women and convince us to fight for them and put their plight over our own. For most of the LGBT, their LGBT status, it comes before colorism, it comes before anything. So now all of a sudden that their rights are being stripped away, I'm supposed to believe that they care about this? Please. They don't care about the colorism we experience. They're just using our sensitivity to colorism to further their own agenda. After this, there will be no more mention of colorism, and they'll go right back to negatively comparing biological women to trans women, right back to calling biological dark-skinned women burnt and ugly, and they're going to go right back to competing with us. And the proof of them competing with us is right on T.S. Madison's YouTube page and her show that she has with a gay male. I forget his name. But I was watching them respond to the pushback they got from their interview with Nene Leakes, which I talked about on my last live stream, by the way. So make sure you check it out if you want my full opinion on that. But apparently there's a term that trans women have been using to describe biological women who look like trans women or who have a trans aesthetic, and it's called a trainee.
And she allowed T.S. Madison to get away with calling her, I guess a manly looking or tranny looking.
No, we called her a trainee. We called her a trainee. You all align trainee and man in the same thing. You all align that. That's what you all out there did. We said that she gave trainee. We said that she was one surgery away from motherfucking being goddamn the trainee. And the trainees, girl, be done. The trainees that we're talking about are the girls that are surged out,
that are polished,
that are surged out, that are polished, that are motherfucking whooped. No, ma'am, you here wouldn't fit the aesthetic of a trainee. No, you're a basic, you're a BW. Listen to Meeting in the Ladies' Room. It'll tell you what BW is. You're a BW. And so you wouldn't be there. No. Nene is not. Nene, there's nothing basic about Nene. No. There's nothing basic about, she's over 6 feet tall. Bitch, she's motherfucking glamorous. She steps through, bitch. She eats it up when she comes through, girl. Bitch, she sits up on the blonde hair, eyelashes. She's beat from forehead to neck, bitch. Beat, bitch. Painted. You're not those things. So you're not going to give the trainee. You're not going to give that, niece. Nene gives that. You're giving apartment, girl. No one's thinking about you. You would not be, girl. No, Madison, you're not here to read her.
You're giving apartment.
You're not here to read her, Madison.
And this was honestly new to me. And I'm usually in the loop when it comes to all the gay lingo because I grew up with the gays. I, went to the gay clubs and I have gay friends. But basically, a trainee is to describe a biological woman who looks trans. And apparently, that is the category they're placing Nene Leakes in. And, they're trying to downplay it like they're not saying that Nene looks masculine or looks like a man. But that's exactly what they're saying without saying it. And see, this is the manipulative language I'm talking about coming from a lot of trans women and gay men. They're being very disingenuous here. But notice how they're comparing trans women to biological women and trying to make it a bad thing if we don't look like them or we don't have their aesthetic. The quote-unquote BW or basic woman concept, based on what T.S. Madison said, is a woman who doesn't have a trans aesthetic, doesn't have a bunch of surgeries, doesn't wear drag queen-like makeup, doesn't wear unrealistic lace fronts, or borderline looks like a drag queen. That is a quote-unquote basic woman, according to them. So pretty much a woman who looks like a natural feminine woman with no overly done enhancements that masculinize their features is quote unquote basic. So you know what that means, ladies. You want to look like a basic woman. If you look like a basic woman, you're doing something right, Black women. You know how I always tell y'all to do the opposite of what Blackistan tells you to do? This is another one of those instances. Be a quote-unquote BW or a basic woman and get as far away from the quote-unquote trainee aesthetic as possible if you don't want to be mistaken for them. This is why I keep telling Black women, stop taking beauty trends from these gay men and trans women because they do be having y'all looking like them. And if anything, that's part of why some of y'all are being called men, because you're overdoing your beauty enhancements and you're thinking it's cute when it's actually taking away from your natural femininity that you possess and the natural femininity that they're jealous of. Now, I'm not against glam. I'm not against beauty enhancements, but less is more, ladies. And of course, trans women and gay men are going to tell you that the overdone look and the overdone beauty enhancements are cute because they want you to look more masculine. They want you to look more like them so they can label you as men, and also because they want masculine men to think you're one of them as well. See, a lot of this boils down to competition for men and the male gaze, and the sooner more Black women realize that, the better off y'all will be. And this is why they're always bragging about sleeping with men who are married to or have babies with biological women. This is why they're always talking about how they can take your man. Something that y'all just got mad at Cooking with Kaya for, by the way. But with trans women, y'all let it slide. But this is why they're always talking about your body parts and how your vagina stinks. They're envious of everything we have that straight men want and whatever they don't have full access to. And they're trying to make us feel bad for having it because they don't. It's jealousy, it's projection, and it's competition. And in the YouTube video I was watching of T.S. Madison and the gay guy, T.S. Madison said right in there that they're glad to be a fetish and a secret to bisexual and trans amorous men. And they're glad to send them back home to Black women because they don't want to go through what biological Black women go through with men. So that's another low-key way that trans women compete and try to make themselves superior to Black women. Oh, well, I don't want to be you because men treat women like shit. But I thought y'all were the same as women. I thought we were equal. So if that's true, then that means they treat y'all like shit too. But like I said before, they go in and out of womanhood when convenient, similar to how mixed people go in and out of Blackness when convenient. They know there's a difference and they acknowledge the difference when it's convenient for them. They just don't want us to acknowledge our differences and set boundaries based on those differences. They also don't want us to have preferences based on our differences, which is why they got mad at Nene for saying she didn't want a man who sleeps with trans women. So a straight woman can't have a preference for a straight man, but a trans woman is allowed to have a preference for a straight man. Make that make sense. Trans women are allowed to want men who don't sleep with men who aren't attracted to masculine presenting men. They're allowed to put shit like no fats, no femmes on their dating profiles. But anytime a Black woman has those same preferences, we're homophobic and transphobic. But for them, it's just a preference. Do you see the similarities between them and straight men? When straight men like light-skinned women, feminine women with fat asses, it's a preference. When black women like masculine straight men with money, we're classist and we're some kind of phobic. So in every single scenario, only males are allowed to have a preference without it being an ism or a phobia. And they also don't want us to acknowledge when a man is transamorous. And they just want us to call them straight to make trans women feel more like biological women, when men who like trans women usually like them because they have male genitalia. Trans women actually talk about how some men don't like to sleep with post-op trans women because it takes away the excitement that comes with sleeping with a trans woman. That's why there's an actual term for men who are attracted to them. It's called transamorous or trans attracted. But trans women want us to ignore that term and just say these men are straight so they can feel more like biological women. But no, we are going to acknowledge the differences just like they acknowledge the differences anytime they want to one-up a biological woman and separate themselves from us. We're not the same, and that's okay. We are all allowed to have our preferences, and there is enough men for everybody. There are straight men, there are bisexual men, there are transamorous men, and it is okay for straight women to prefer straight men. It's not the end of the world. And like I said in my live stream, biological women should also not be blamed for grown men refusing to live in their truth. If a straight woman does not want you because you're bi or because you're transamorous, put your big boy briefs on, take the rejection like a grown-up, and find a woman who's okay with that, because there are many out there in 2025 who don't care. Stop blaming women for your insecurities, because men damn sure don't take the blame for our insecurities as women. And I just feel like it's time for women to give these males the same energy and stop giving them more empathy and compassion than they give us. And that includes straight males, gay males, trans women, and especially if they're black, because black males are black women's biggest haters. They are our biggest ops. And that's why black women need to burn the cape. And I also think that it's best for black women to stop platforming trans women, because I don't see how that's actually been beneficial to biological black women. I mean, I've been watching this for years and I'm still trying to figure out what we're getting out of that. I too tried to coexist with trans women and hear them out. Y'all saw me do that on my channel, but their behavior has repeatedly shown me that they're not true allies to black women. They are self-first like everyone else, so it's time for us to be self-first. And anytime black women platform them or have public discussions with them, it always ends up being an attack on us and our womanhood and our phenotype. And we're basically silenced and forced to put our plight on the back burner for them, which is what they want. And black women need to understand that most people who are born male, they seek to control women in some fashion. And in this case, trans women are attempting to control how we see our bodies, how we love and accept our bodies. They're minimizing the very same body parts that gave them life. They're also shaming natural female body parts that are not surgically enhanced and calling them basic. It's like it's always something new to shame us or put us down in some way. And on top of that, again, they're all over the internet saying how they look better than us because they've gotten all of these surgeries. And no, it's not just one trans woman, it's many of them. And if they're not the ones on the mic, just look in their comment section. This is a common belief among them. They think we're so jealous of them, and it's all centered around the male gaze. And it's not to say that biological women don't exhibit some of the same catty behavior, because we do. But we're also not going to pretend like the behavior coming from biological males is exactly the same, because it's not. And this is another mistake black women make, trying to equalize everything. Biological males weaponizing their transness and weaponizing transphobia against biological women is not the same as biological women being catty towards another biological woman. It's an extra layer there because they were born male and have different experiences. Furthermore, when it comes to MySpace, anybody using their otherness to be colorist and misogynistic towards dark-skinned women and placing themselves above us in any way is not an ally. And yes, I'm kicking you out of my space. If colorist biological women don't get a pass here, then neither do colorist trans women. They don't get special treatment just because they're trans. And that is clearly what trans women want. They want special treatment from women because of transphobia. And no, if we can't be transphobic in your space, you're not allowed to be colorist or misogynistic or misogynoristic in our spaces. No. And anytime we set those kind of boundaries as biological Black women, then they want to shift the conversation to femicide. Oh, trans women are being unalived, but our femicide rate is astronomically high as well. And we still have to be held accountable for any time we do something wrong, especially if it's transphobia or homophobia. So no, trans women don't get a pass for their colorism and their misogynoir just because they experience high rates of femicide. And Black women allowing them to weaponize transphobia and guilt us into silence is why they have been able to just openly disrespect us with no consequences. This is why we can't have any criticism towards them or call them out on their bullshit without being phobic or jealous. It's very similar to what we've done with Black men and light-skinned women and mixed women. We have coddled them so much that we can't even talk about the ways in which they cause harm to us without being called hateful, bitter, or jealous. And any Black woman who's famous or has a lot of notoriety, they can't even defend their womanhood, their own womanhood, without fear of being canceled. That's how bad it's gotten. We've pretty much put our plight on the back burner and centered all these other groups so much that they have been emboldened. And now they can say whatever they want about us, and we can't say anything about them without being penalized. And if we do say anything, we have to choose our words very carefully or we'll be canceled. But them, they don't have to walk on eggshells for us. They don't have to tiptoe around us. And Black women, and especially dark-skinned women, are so brainwashed and self-hating that we stupidly take the disrespect because they have successfully convinced us that we're insecure or jealous or some type of phobic if we put ourselves first and we speak our mind like they have been doing this entire time. We've essentially been guilted and manipulated out of practicing self-preservation the way everyone else does. And that's why anytime we actually are self-first or create platforms like mine that encourage Black women and especially dark-skinned women to be self-first, it's very foreign to most people because they're used to Black women putting everyone else first or trying to be all-inclusive and kumbaya. When they actually come across Black women and especially dark-skinned Black women like the ones over here that don't do that kumbaya shit, oh, they become enraged because it's so out of the ordinary and they try to bully us into silence or manipulate us with this fake morality. It's because they're so used to us fighting for everybody. And without us doing that, it disrupts the status quo. They lose some of their frontline soldiers and their social justice warriors. And that's why the Latinos are trying to get us to fight for them right now as well. So I am here to encourage Black women not to take the bait. They see more of us resting and actually practicing self-preservation. They see more of us waking up to the manipulation, and they are doing everything in their power to get us back on the front lines and put all these other groups before ourselves like we were doing before. And they're pulling out all the stops. They're fear-mongering. They're using racism, colorism, and anything that triggers us so that we can put the cape back on and fight for everybody. So I am just here to remind you ladies not to fall for it. Keep resting. Let them fight their own battles the same way they have left us to fight ours. So that is all I have to say about this. Let me know what you think about this topic down in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.